You've served as a member of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee. According to you, sir, where do you think our politicians are going wrong, especially in addressing public spendings? And how do we tighten accountability? Having been a part of a party that has served our state for almost more than 2 decades or 2 decades and a half, do we have a proper roadmap for the youth of Odisha? Like, how do they deal with what is happening in the state? What is the migration statistics for our state? And how do we create a roadmap, a successful roadmap for the youth?
Had our government continued in another 10 years, you would have seen that Odisha's youth would have been some of the most promising uh, captains of industry and maybe even, some of the uh, most enterprising entrepreneurs.
Of
Oh, yes,
factors.
yes. You see, Naveen Patnaik, our party president and former chief minister, had a very, very soft corner for environment, for natural beauty.
What went wrong with BJD in 2024? And what really happened with the elections of 2024?
It is this popularity which got us 51 seats and more number of votes. It is not a rejection by the people of Naveen Patnaik. Your right ends where my nose starts. So if you are going to hit my nose, then there will be a reaction and I'll also hit your nose.
Backlash.
I would like to draw lessons from what happened in Sri Lanka, what happened in Bangladesh, and now what's happening in Nepal.
But do you
What
not
has
see a pattern in what is happening to our neighboring countries and how we are becoming isolated from all our borders? Hi, and welcome back to yet another episode of Tea with Tanya. Today's guest is a rare blend of impact, intellect, and integrity. Welcoming Dr. Amar Patnaik to the show. He's converted himself seamlessly from a civil servant to a change maker, to a parliamentarian, a data rights crusader, and he has been making change by brewing reforms one policy at a time. Welcome to the show, sir. And you are someone who spent decades in public life as accountant journal, but then you switched to being a member of the active politics. So what was that point of frustration that made you switch from absolute bureaucracy to active politics?
there's no single point actually, or not a single moment, which made me, think that all that I was doing as a bureaucrat was not um, uh, meaningful, and therefore to switch to something more active. It was probably years of working as a bureaucrat. One realized that there are limitations,
Mm-hmm.
and those limitations could probably
Mm-hmm.
be addressed if you join politics, which affords you a chance to, interact with people more directly,
Mm-hmm.
solve their problems even more directly, and the canvas is wider. There is a
Mm-hmm.
huge wide canvas, and I wanted to play on that canvas. My bureaucratic life was confined to auditing, accounting, finding out scams, finding out irregularities, malfeasances. But there could be also other things like changing the cost of living for common man, thinking about policy changes. So so this thought was brewing in my mind for I think at least 5 years, and then I think I took this decision.
But I think, if I look at your educational background, I've seen the same pattern. You were a gold medalist in physics once, then you did your MBA, and then you did your law, and then you also went on to do a PhD on, institutional administration in rural India. And your thesis was actually published as a book. So, could you, in plain, very plain language, help us understand what is one of the most difficult barriers we are currently looking at rural India, especially the institutional rural India? And what is that one policy you would recommend that could fix this chasm?
Quite frankly, during my research, I realized that there is one institutional variable in India, particularly in rural areas, which is not there in other parts of the world. And that variable is the caste system, the caste variable. So when actors in the rural setting, they behave and act in a particular manner, they are substantially guided by what their caste or community thinks. And this creates asymmetries. So when you are implementing a public policy, these asymmetries are probably not taken into account because we are supposed to be implementing something irrespective of caste, creed, etc. But then these variables are at interplay in the rural setting. And therefore, the benefits of, let's say, a government program doesn't reach all the individuals of all the castes in a fair and equitable manner as it should be, as it is designed. And it does create differences. And these asymmetries result in, um suboptimal outcomes. And if you ask me, how do you change this? Caste system has been in India for 5,000 or more than 5,000 years. It may have weakened because of education, because of growth, because of wealth coming into it, which is a great equalizer. But the variable still remains. And what we have seen, or what I have seen, that wherever there is an optimal outcome of a government program or a scheme or a kind of policy, there is always an institutional champion. I've used the word institutional champion in my book. You can call him as someone like a person who is a star in that community or in that village or in that rural setting, who can convene people from different castes or different religions or different genders together to achieve a common purpose. Now, this institutional champion is the key. So, if you talk at a macro level, Mahatma Gandhi was an institutional champion. He he got people of different ideologies, different approaches, different castes, different thoughts together to achieve independence. I'm making it simplistic, but actually, at the rural India, it is much more difficult because you are grappling with those variables almost on a daily basis. And your cultural values, the informal institutions, are so deeply rooted in that system that it is very difficult to bring about change. Because if it was so easy, then things would have changed.
By
Things
nowadays.
haven't changed. So you will find one particular village, let's say, where a particular government program has been successfully implemented, giving the best results. But the very next contiguous village hasn't been able to deliver. We have seen several such cases. Now, that is because of the absence of this institutional champion. Now, who this institutional champion could be? It could be the collector, it could be the Gram Panchayat, Sarpanch, it could be somebody who is not either of these authorities. This institutional champion has authority beyond coercion, beyond regulation. He has moral authority. He has authority to call people together and convince them that we cannot be divisive on these various variables like caste, religion, societal status, economic disparities, but achieve something which is more substantial for the better or the common good or for the betterment of the entire community as well.
Right. So this brings me to my next question, that when you cite Mahatma Gandhi as one of the such examples of an institutional champions who was able to, pull people of different caste, creed, race, and belief systems into one under one umbrella ideology. But don't we really think that the times were different? There was one priority at the time. There was one common agenda that everybody had, irrespective of where they came from. And that was fighting for the freedom, fighting for the very very basics of freedom. And now, when we look at the community mappings and we look at the community dynamics, every community, every, irrespective of their caste, creed, or religion, everybody is fighting their own battles in silos. So, is it actually possible to have just one institutional champion at this time?
So I give the example of Mahatma Gandhi in the larger context of
Hmm.
freedom movement. But what I mentioned, and I think that got missed out, is that what is now lacking in rural India to bring about change is the absence of these micro institutional champions in every village. It could be a teacher, it could be a sarpanch, it could be an educated youth of that village. Now we have to create those champions,
Mm-hmm.
create those selfless individuals, identify and create those selfless individuals. One of the biggest qualities of this institutional champion in my research is level of selflessness is very high. So if your level of selflessness is very high, then people probably are attracted to you. So we have to create these people. Currently, our implementation strategy doesn't recognize these people. At some point of time, in some government scheme, I remember that we had thought about having these volunteers, Nirman volunteers, I think, but it has not occupied the pride of place or prominence that is required, because without him, I think a program success will not happen. We do not need to talk about independence. Let's say total defecation campaign in villages. Now, that's a common goal. Everyone would like to have it. So there should be somebody who can tell that this is good for every community, irrespective of what may be your separate ideology. And then let's work together to achieve this. How to achieve it?
One
Yeah,
common goal.
to cover everything. Now, to convince that person, to convince this various actors in the rural setting around him, he needs to have that power, and that power comes out of his own morality, own selflessness, own level of involvement, level of embeddedness. I've talked about this in that book in great detail. So these individuals are also not easy to find. Wherever they have been found, they have been successful. Now, I talked about the total defecation campaign of the government of India, Swachh Bharat. Now, you see, what happens is that in rural areas, you would find that it is considered as only the higher caste people or the rich people will have a proper latrine with water supply, and that will be a status symbol for them. They would not want a lower caste person to have the same facility, because then they lose that particular position status in the hierarchy. But if there is somebody who could be champion, who could say that this is a basic necessity which every human being should have, and let us sink our differences to achieve this and succeeds, then he would be called an institutional champion.
Champion. Right. So, Amar sir, you've also been awarded as Sansad Ratan, one of the highest awards awarded to people like you for parliamentary performances. Now, this is what I really want to understand. What really works in the parliament? What really impacts in the parliament? And where does legislation fit into it? And where have we failed in legislation in India right now?
No, so legislations are introduced by the executive, which is the government. The parliament, as the legislature, is a separate organ, needs to pass the legislation to become an act, and then the executive will implement it. The role of the parliament is to improve that legislation, because of the combined knowledge and experience of the representatives of people, the members of parliament. The debates and discussions should lead the government to change their legislation, maybe bring in changes that would be more effective during implementation. So the contribution of parliament or an MP is towards improving the legislation. It's a different matter that the government may not accept all your suggestions, but they do accept also in certain cases these changes. But this is just one aspect, which is to make laws. The other one is to hold the government to account. the main job, one of the important or significant jobs of the legislature parliament is to hold the executive to account. So if certain money has been given, certain legislation has been passed, and it is not doing well, you ask the question why. That's why questions and answer sessions are there. Then you raise matters of urgent importance, which may not be legislation, but to draw attention of the government to government, which is in this case the executive, to address that situation. So there are several ways in which you can make your parliamentary presence impactful. Uh, if you really come down to points or very objectively, that if you have raised a question 5 times and whether the question has been addressed or whether the problem has been solved, that one-to-one analysis may not lead you to great results, because very rarely government accepts whatever comes out during debates. But then governments do also get informed of the problems that is there in implementation, and may take care of it during the implementation stage without really having to change the legislation. So I think participating in debates, most importantly, participating in standing committee meetings where you get to hear from the opposite side or from the government what is the intent behind bringing a legislation. You can make changes there. So I think that is the way you make your contribution to parliament.
Right. And this brings me to the other objective that you have served for so many decades in our country. You've served as a member of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee. According to you, sir, where do you think our politicians are going wrong, especially in addressing public spendings? And how do we tighten accountability?
I have a feeling that I have said this before, that the distinction between the executive and the legislature sometimes gets very uh, blurred and tenuous, because if a road has not been constructed in your village, it is the job of the executive, the engineer, the collector, or the government executive, to have done that. It is the job of the legislature as an MP or an MLA to ask the question why it has not been done. If the money was given, why it has not been done? Why there has been a delay? Why it has not been done properly? Hold the government to account. Instead of doing that, I think many of our representatives, they would like to get into the action of the executive, put themselves in the shoes of the executive, and try to implement that particular contract or particular work, which is not what is the intention of the constitution. And that is where I think the problem lies, that the legislature is unable to hold the executive to account. It is not unable to take them to task for malperformance, bad performance, delayed performance, or ineffective performance. The emphasis that should be there on this uh, is not as much as it should be, in my opinion, because if that would have been, then the systemic changes would have taken place. The systemic changes do not take place, but episodic changes take place. As to whatever is brought out, action is taken. But a bigger problem underneath doesn't get addressed.
So why is there so much of influx into execution and not legislation? Is it just the
I
money being centered at execution level, or is it the limelight?
could be either, but I have a feeling that uh, people want to be in action. And since this is a big country, we have scarce resources, and we are I can say that, middle income country, if not a low income country. There are pressing demands from the electorate to so many issues that they have, and to do it quickly. So a public representative gets driven by the fact that I have to satisfy the electorate to get re-elected, and therefore gets into the issue of execution.
Right.
I think that if he only asks questions as to why something is not happening, the elector would probably think that he is not doing enough. So it is not just a kind of, I would say, uh, drawback of our legislators and representatives of people. It is also, in a sense, reflecting on our electors, in our voters, in our citizens. They should know that their public representative is there to hold the government to account, not to do the work for them.
I really think there is a little murkiness in this clarity among the people in general. And that kind of brings me to our state. Having been a part of a party that has served our state for almost, more than 2 decades or 2 decades and a half, do we have a proper roadmap for the youth of Odisha? Like, how do they deal with what is happening in the state? What is the migration statistics for our state? And how do we create a roadmap, a successful roadmap for the youth?
See, during our time in power, when Naveen Patnaik was the chief minister for such a long period of time, there was a clear path for the youth. First, of course, when we started, there were financial distress, there was operational bottlenecks, there was corruption. Now, against that background, BJD and Naveen Patnaik came to power. So, first thing was to set your house in order, and I think 2 terms went in that. And after that, to see a progressive path for all sections of society, particularly the youth, was thought of. And these centers of excellence, in sports, the various developments, increasing the number of seats in medical colleges, having more medical colleges, that is to increase the number of doctors, to have a very successful startup policy, to give incentives to people to be entrepreneurs themselves. No, all this started and was really taking off, was appreciated all over the country. So I think there was a clear path. The point is, Orissa youth was always, uh, you know, oriented towards getting a government job.
I think that's the
So to
scenario
shift
in the
away,
country.
to become job creators would have taken time.
Mhm.
I think policies of Naveen Patnaik government, particularly in the last 5 years, the 5T and all these uh, transformative policies that were brought in to empower the youth of Odisha, to increase their capacities, to become entrepreneurs, to become successful, industry captains, or to become successful, managers. That was really picking up. Bhubaneswar had become almost the education hub. So I think had our government continued in another 10 years, you would have seen that Odisha's youth would have been some of the most promising uh, captains of industry, and maybe even some of the uh, most enterprising entrepreneurs. Many new developments, patents, innovations would have taken place. No, I'm not saying that it will not happen now, but that was the vision of Naveen Patnaik. Uh, Migration, to me, there are two kinds. One is the forced migration, and the other one is voluntary migration. Voluntary migration sometimes is in search of better opportunities. Like Indians go to America in search of better opportunities, get better jobs. So such kind of migration should actually be encouraged, because an Oriya boy goes and establishes himself as a leader in another state or another part of the country is a very proud moment. Just like we feel very proud of Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai. But when there is a forced migration in search of a job, in search of livelihood, in search of income, then that is something that government has to address. And that was there in some parts of Orissa. We had taken several steps to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen. As I said, I think we were in the right direction. The growth was happening, the size of the cake was increasing, the delivery was improving, technology was being used. So an overall development strategy was in place. that has got disrupted because of the 2024 election loss.
Right. So that is like one very small figment of what our state is currently or has been going through, in the last couple of decades. We also have some really elusive and very unique biodiversity spots like the wetlands or the mangroves or the coastal areas. Did the BJD, the ex-incumbent government, have anything in place for such, pockets of
Oh, yes,
habitats?
yes. You see, Naveen Patnaik, our party president and former chief minister, had a very, very soft corner for environment, for natural beauty. And therefore, I think you see what we did in disaster prevention was remarkable, accepted all over the world globally as something that Odisha mastered. Naveen Patnaik's time, we mastered. So the damage to the environment because of a natural calamity or natural disaster was minimal. But wetland development, Chilka, we got it into a Ramsar site, blue beaches, virgin forests being developed as eco-sensitive zones. Uh, so I think the as we say, Orissa followed a green growth path completely because of the personal. I know that I can say with certainty that the personal, uh, importance that Honorable Naveen Patnaik placed on a safe environment, a good environment, because that is what is going to impact the lives of people.
Right. So, now the conversation that has come to a full circle when we've talked about the youth, their employments, their chances in the state, their chances outside, what are the chances they can take, and also the different types of pockets of habitats and biodiversities that we see. What went wrong with BJD in 2024? And what really happened with the elections of 2024?
First thing is to recognize the fact that even though we lost in terms of number of seats, the popular votes, the total number of votes that we polled was more than the BJP, which basically means that people didn't really reject us. People didn't really reject Naveen Patnaik, which was also evidenced by the fact that after the loss, people were really feeling sorry about having lost the Naveen Patnaik's leadership. But what happened is, I think we have analyzed it and feel that, of course, there was an anti-incumbency bound to happen after 24 years. There were anti-incumbency not against Naveen Patnaik, but against some local leaders, maybe because of local issues. And then the narratives that were created by BJP, many of which were absolutely false, like Ratna Bhandar's key having been taken away, the four doors of Puri temple not being opened because of some ulterior motive. Now, these kind of narratives, which were there, particularly in social media, could not be countered by BJD at the right time, immediately. And that is what I think my personal opinion is somewhere something where we went wrong. Had we done that and had the correct perspective gone to people that Naveen Babu is in charge and he is aware of the fact uh, whatever are the drawbacks, and he will take care of it when you are voted to power again, because he has always said that I am committed to the people of my state, then this would not have happened. So it was probably our failure to uh, identify or recognize that these false narratives were being created and we didn't counter it at the right time uh, very emphatically. We should have done it very emphatically. Now, what are these narratives? There could be many, uh, but I think the biggest mistake was that we did not recognize that these narratives could influence the voters' behavior.
Right. But not being able to mitigate what happened at that time, does it not also point at some inner turmoil in the party itself?
May not be, because I think the Why this happened is probably because of I would say overconfidence.
Mm-hmm.
That since we have Naveen Patnaik and since Naveen Babu is so hugely popular and he has no anti-incumbency but pro-incumbency, so we can sail in his boat and we don't really have to do much. It was not really internal squabbles, but I think they thought that they can still sail in this popularity of Honorable CM. It is this popularity which got us 51 seats and more number of votes. It is not a rejection by the people of Naveen Patnaik. If we would have recognized and made amends in the way, then maybe we would have actually been in power today.
Do you think social media and these IT houses they had a major role to play? How the narrative floated?
Yes, yes, of course. This is where I said, this is where we faltered. And I think our strategy was deficient. And not just me, even our boss, former former chief minister, Naveen Babu says this. And he said in every public meeting that we could not repulse the false narratives in social media in particular. We could not read how social media could be so effective in influencing the voters' behavior, voters' thinking. We still thought that the physical way of
People.
going to people, having a big meeting and organizing a big function would deliver the results. I think we didn't appreciate the changing times.
So are
We didn't also appreciate the strength of the BJP, which remained in social media, and we just played into that strength.
Mhm. So are we recalibrating ourselves? Is BJD recalibrating its
Oh,
stance?
yes, of course. As head of the IT and social media, boss has entrusted that huge task on me. It's a great responsibility. We are cognizant of the fact, and I think our party leaders are also equally cognizant of the fact. Our youth and student wing cadres are also seriously working on this. I think by the time we face the immediate panchayat election or whatever, we should be in having a very strong social media strategy in place, social media strategy being implemented as well, and our party leaders being able to refute anything which is given in social media, many of which, are, as you know, are false and are not fact checked.
But are you taking AI into consideration and how are you going to, come over that obstacle? Deep fake videos
So
and
this, this is the problem in social media. This is the problem in the internet. On one side is people demanding freedom of expression. The other side saying that this is creating havoc. And our law is very clear that freedom of expression is not absolute. There are reasonable restrictions. So to implement this, because social media is such a thing, internet is such a thing that it travels so fast, nobody has control. Uh, Using AI to create deep fakes and various images. Now, even if you make a complaint to take it down, there would be another handle from where it can actually be generated.
plus the process is also very tedious and
Process is very tedious. So I think a legislation has to be in place now, where the process should be simpler, and the social fabric should not get affected because of this, irresponsible AI generated or social media content. The content moderation that is required to be done by the media intermediaries platforms, I think, is not sufficient, adequate. They're making a lot of revenue, but there is not spending too much time on content moderation. I think time has come to do that because lives of women, lives of children, lives of political leaders, their reputation is at stake.
so as the head of IT cell for the ex-incumbent government of Odisha, if you had a 100-day mandate to curb all of this, to get over all of these roadblocks, a 100-day mandate, what would be your first mandate then?
I think the first thing is education. I think many people who are in the internet space and who are posting content in internet do not realize that your right ends where my nose starts. So if you are going to hit my nose, then there will be a reaction, and I'll also hit your nose.
Backlash.
So if that happens, then there will be jungle Raj. So this no amount of coercive legislation can monitor any of these things. I think the absence of it has contributed to it. So my first thing will be to bring in one such thing. But more importantly, that every actor in the internet space has to be responsible, just like every citizen has to be responsible. They have rights, but they should also have duties. And these duties are probably not being appreciated by them because they are not they have not been informed as much about their duties, which they should be. As I said, that if you are today making an AI deepfake about some political leader, lady, let us say, woman leader, and as is happening everywhere, one should realize that it can also come back to you, your own leader. So that responsibility has to come from the users of internet. Legislation is important. I would definitely want legislation to be in place, but we can have several legislations, but implementation would always depend on the actors themselves. So this is where I think we are deficient now. We still have not been able to communicate to our internet users, to our social media users, that they have rights, but they also have more responsibilities, and it will be a safe place to play around only if everyone also performs his duties in addition to the rights.
So until 2024, when you were member of BJD, which was, the party in power in Odisha, you were sitting as a contemporary against BJP, which was working in the center. The dynamics was different. But now, as a member of a party which stands as an opposing or opposition party in the state, has the dynamic shifted or is it still the same?
No, Biju Janata Dal is a regional party.
Hmm.
Its primary goal, objective is to serve the people of Odisha. The people of Odisha would be served by getting better administration, more funds from the center, better representation, a voice to their problems. BJD will continue to do that and continues to do that, whether prior to 2024 or after 2024. The BJD remains committed to the people of Orissa, and if that means, uh, raising its voice at the central level, whether for more funds or a separate sympathetic approach because of our past history of natural disasters and etc., then we would continue to do that.
Right. So, one of the most common narratives that has been coming since 2024 elections is that the Biju Janata Dal, during its tenure of 25 long years, did not do enough with the, youth mobilization, industrialization. But at the same time, there is a segment of the Odia people that also believes that industrialization in our state will come with a hefty price because we definitely have some very fragile ecosystems. Do we have a roadmap for how to go forward if BJD comes back in power?
No, we always had a roadmap. And I think this allegation that industrialization did not happen and industries did not come is not true at all. Because if you look at the Make in Orissa campaigns that we ran, we had a huge success in terms of, you know, I think more than about 35-40% of the projects which were who were signed MOUs getting commissioned, and even we attracted FDI during the COVID time. I think much higher than states like Maharashtra. So I think we had the strategy in place, and this strategy was very compliant and very cognizant of the fragile ecosystem that you talked about, our environment, because in many of these forest areas, we have tribal peoples staying there. So their concern cannot be sidelined, ignored at any cost. So we had enforced complete compliance, to the environment clearance documents or environment clearance certificates, wildlife clearance certificates while implementing any project. As I had said before, that our former Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik has an emotional connect with this issue. And therefore, I think we were in the right track before. If we come back to power, we will be in the right track, and maybe we'll take care of some of the shortcomings that are brought to our notice.
Was there ever a time in your life where you chose principle over politics?
Politics, I'm new in politics. I've just come. This is my seventh year in politics, so I'm really a bacha in politics. All along my career, 28 years in the civil services, or even as a child, as a student, principle was something which was very dear to my heart. And I stuck to it, and I've reaped the benefit of it. Many people think that if you're principled, you will not get the benefit of it. I think if you're principled, you get the benefit of it. May not be as fast and as quickly, but it is more sustainable. In politics, therefore, I have tried to bring that in and stay by those principles and remain principled within the uh, you know the requirements of my principles. There has not been any um, I don't think any compromise. But beyond these principles, there are certain requirements in politics which a politician is expected to do. So wherever I felt comfortable to do something, I've done. Wherever I've not felt comfortable to do something, I've not done. Wherever I felt comfortable to speak about something, I've spoken. Wherever I have not felt comfortable, I have not spoken. Of course, there is a party line which has to be followed. And just like an employee in an organization, you have to behave in a particular manner, do in a particular manner. But there are certain principles which are core to your heart, core to your personality, core to your being. And that remains uncompromised.
Right. And along these lines, if you had to leave one legacy in the form of one policy in the next 5 years to the youth of Odisha, what would that be?
I can't really say one policy, but one thing I'll tell to the youth of the state: there is a tremendous potential in the youth of Odisha. Why? Because they have come through a period of struggle. It is not a rich state, so they have come through a period of struggle to meet their basic needs, meet their educational needs, scientific needs, their innovation streaks. So they would be very successful if they persevere to achieve their goal of innovation and make new products. But before that, this is what my observation is, that the youth should address unmet human needs. Unless the youth addresses through technology, through innovation, an unmet human need of Odisha, Odia people in agriculture, in textile or handloom, or rural Odisha, they will not be satisfied themselves, and their product or one innovation will also not be able to make an impact. Not just commercial terms, but even not just in satisfaction level, but even in commercial terms, it will not be successful, because no innovation can be successful commercially if it doesn't address some unidentified human need which has been identified. If it is just for technological elegance, then I think it will remain only as a technological elegance. So to the youth of Orissa and to even policymakers, my first suggestion would be to find out the unmet uh, needs of Odia people in different sectors, however small and big, and then address those, give it to the youth of the state to solve these issues, solve these problems. And they, with their wisdom, they, with their versatility and technological prowess, education, and because of their experience, which I talked about, will be able to address some of them. It will make them happy for having solved society's problems, and will also make them engaged, employed, and make them, financially independent.
Right. That was really, really a nice answer. So you really summed it really well. What has been your take on the vote thefts allegations made by the opposition leader Rahul Gandhi from Congress against BJP?
See, on this, the discrepancies in the votes cast and votes counted, discrepancies between the votes counted for the assembly and the parliament, discrepancy in the votes cast after 5 p.m. Many such issues, the BJD itself has raised it before the election commission number of times. But because we did not get satisfactory answers, we have approached the Honorable High Court of Odisha to direct the Election Commission of India to furnish us Form 17C, from where we can derive satisfaction as to whether our allegations were correct or not. On the vote chori issue, which the Congress party has raised,
Mm-hmm.
the issue is largely on the electoral rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes in the electoral rolls, like names being appearing 4 times, 5 times, one address having so many number of voters. These are huge mistakes. These have to be addressed. There's no doubt about it. But that those irregular or duplicate or ineligible voters, whether they have cast their votes in the election, is something which is available in a document called Form 17A, Register of Voters. Now, that's a document which is available with the Election Commission. So, unless you get that document, you cannot say with certainty that all these people whose names appear wrongfully in the voter list have actually voted and therefore have influenced the results. Otherwise, it is surmisable.
But what led to this suspicion?
No, this is because I think there were several instances, real life instances, which we keep hearing where, in a particular constituency, or let's say in a particular ward, the total number of votes is 800, votes cast has been 1700. How can that happen? No, these are allegations which have come from various quarters. One hasn't heard about it, has not done any research in Odisha on that. But after having seen that more number of votes being cast in a particular state, less number of votes being cast in a particular state, as large number of votes were voters were deleted, disenfranchisement, serious issue. So I think all these things have snowballed into this particular crisis. I would think that this is very good for democracy. If these issues would not have come up, then people would have had in their mind that something is wrong. I think if the election commission addresses these issues, then our democratic process will become stronger, our voting process will become stronger, and in the process, democracy will become stronger. The idea is that people should believe the system. Now there is a kind of distrust between the voter and what is happening. So if the voter doesn't believe that his vote is going to the right person to whom he wanted to give, and it is instead being taken away to a wrong person, which is called theft or chori, then it is very bad. It's a bad omen for Indian democracy, because um, if people lose trust in the electoral machinery, election systems, then it doesn't really augur well for our democracy, which is the largest democracy in the world. People look up to our democracy. So I think every institution, every actor, every political party in the system should strive hard not to break this trust of the voter with the election system. They should, in fact, all work together to give confidence and trust to the voter that he is actually deciding in his limited way with his one vote, his representative, his person who he wants him to be represent. So I think this trust building between the voter and the election system has to be restored, which has actually taken a beating. And I think everyone has a role to play in this.
Dr. Amar, what according to you do you think is of absolute priority right now concerning India being an integral part of India? What happened in Nepal recently, the Gen Z revolution, the uprising or the vote chori that happened in 2024 got reported in 2025, or what according to you think like people of India should be really looking at right now? What is the bigger picture for us?
You see, the bigger picture for me is that I would like to draw lessons from what happened in Sri Lanka, what happened in Bangladesh, and now what's happening in Nepal.
But do you
What
not
has
see a pattern in what is happening to our neighboring countries and how we are becoming isolated from all our borders?
It's not a question of isolation. It's a question of recognizing the fact that the student and the youth, uh, we on our borders, we historically belong to a common stock. So they are becoming restless against corruption, restless nepotism, the nepo kids, and whatever, maybe jobs as well. So we have to recognize that this is there in the minds of people, minds of youth, and it is everywhere in the world. The youth who lead a movement, youth who bring change, and so the youth of these countries were restless, and therefore they came to the road and unseated the ruling government. In India, this situation should not actually arise because a number of things, the youth's concerns have been addressed. But I think we have to do more. The voice of the youth has to be listened, responded to the best possible manner, and they should be explained why everything that they say cannot be addressed now, could be in future. So this interaction between youth and politicians, youth and bureaucrats, youth and community itself, youth and parents and children, that interaction has to increase because we are a young country and the youth are restless. They are very ambitious, rightly so, because they are educated, they have technological adoption is very high. They want to contribute. They should be given opportunities to contribute. Some of them will succeed, some of them will not, but then opportunities should be there. That's what probably they are asking for. So Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, there is a lot of learning from there. We should not just ignore them as specific to those countries. We should think that we have something to learn because an unstable neighbor is anyway brings instability to our country as well.
But is it also safe to say that there could be some foul play and some external
Could
hands?
be, could be, could be, yes.
Because when one is impulsive, it's very easy to control them with
Absolutely.
motivations.
Absolutely. Could be.
So is India looking at such an unrest in near future?
I don't think such kind of thing will happen ever in India. There are pockets where people are unhappy with something that has happened, that is happening, and that has been addressed. The best part of Indian democracy is that all the three organs are very vibrant. It's a vibrant democracy. So if the executive fails, the legislature comes in. If the legislature fails, the judiciary comes in. If there is executive excess and overreach, then the judiciary comes in. So I think these three organs are performing their role very well. And they should continue to do that because ultimately, as I said, the people of the country, the ordinary citizen, should not lose trust on its government, lose trust on the institutions that have been given to him by the Constitution. We the people have given us the Constitution, so we have created this. People of India have created these institutions. If they feel that these institutions are not delivering, then situations like on a popular uprising, unrest will happen. But if they are performing their duties, then I think such incidents would be less. And even if they do, they get addressed.
Right. Thank you so much for that answer, sir. I'm really happy with all the answers that you just gave. That sums up a lot of things that I had in my mind. And I really hope that the audience who's watching us, they also have a lot of things to take away from this. This was a splendid episode with you, sir. Hoping to see you again with more such topics where we can brainstorm, understand, pick out the details, and know this should be must be some positive takeaway from all of this.
Pleasure was completely mine. Thank you so much for having this conversation.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. It was a splendid episode with you, and I had so much to take away. And I really hope that our audience had the same feelings. And whatever you have questions about or what was your takeaway, do mention it in the comment section below. Do not forget to give us a like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye bye.